Warm greetings from the high 10. It's Angela of Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. I'm right here, Miss Katie. Sorry I wasn't on earlier. Just a little bit out of it. I tried to do my best to get back on to get the story out. This is a double live pertaining to the terror in Subway, New York City, and Summer Wells. This week will mark 10 months that she's been missing out of Rogersville, Tennessee. And I'm going to discuss all matters pertaining to both subject matters. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Every audio play will have a source. ABC News uploaded 4 hours ago pertaining to social media reveals details on Brooklyn subway shooting suspect. Thank you for joining me.
Photos of the suspect this morning, warning residents he should be considered armed and dangerous. Let's get more on the investigation now from ABC senior investigative reporter Aaron Kaczynski, ABC News contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett, and ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. Aaron, I want to start with you. What do we know about the suspect at this point? Because there seems to be a lot of focus on his social media posts.
He posted a number of things, what police have described as irrational rants about all sorts of subjects, including the subway and subway crime and Mayor Eric Adams here in New York City, but also about the war in Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. So authorities aren't sure whether those postings on YouTube amount to anything that could point to motive. They're taking a look at it. They're looking at the possibility that some ideological beliefs played a role. They're also looking to see whether any psychiatric issues played a role and might have motivated this shooting.
And Brad, Mayor Eric Adams has been pushing for a larger police presence in the subways. There were no officers at the 36th Street station, but this started on the train itself. And as Mike just said, you can't put a cop on every subway car. So what's the solution?
So even if you did, obviously that's unrealistic. How do you control the population coming into the train? You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people a day. You can't set up metal detectors. No one would ever be able to get on the subway. I mean, inherently, places like subways are just vulnerable. There's no really a way around that. Maybe exterior presence of the police at the stations themselves might be some deterrent. And obviously, intelligence, if you have information to be on the lookout for fill-in-the-blank person. But it is a really tricky thing trying to make public transit like bulletproof safe, because it by its nature, as I said before, it's not realistic to be able to do that. So, and I understand people's fear, taking kids, taking themselves, their wives, their girlfriends, etc. on the metro. But I think, being vigilant and keeping track of at least known people. I'm not suggesting Mr. James was known to the police, but it's things like that. Intelligence about people who have made odd postings or threats. I mean, this guy has said several things online, including, I just want to go shoot people. Now, you can't charge somebody because they say that, but it tells people like me that is exactly what he wants to do, and that's exactly what he did.
And Aaron, with no cameras working at that station, how did they end up IDing James as a suspect? Because first they just said person of interest. Today they upgraded that.
And they worked overnight to piece together that upgrade, and they did it in several ways. They tracked the purchase of the gun to a 2011 purchase in Ohio, according to law enforcement sources. They also tracked the purchase of a gas mask, I believe, to eBay that may help them identify the suspect. They found a number of items at the scene. We've seen the image of the bag there on the screen with smoke canisters, commercial fireworks, Phantom Fireworks sent us a statement saying that those were purchased near Racine, Wisconsin. And so they've linked some of these purchases together, Diane, with the eyewitness accounts and some of the images they were able to capture from other subway stations, him going in, perhaps him coming out. And that's how they were able to identify him and also upgrade him to the suspected gunman now.
And Mary Alice, federal law enforcement are also supporting this investigation. How are they helping?
Yeah, it's clear that they are trying to support this investigation because it's clear that it's become a multi-state investigation. I think there's big questions now about whether weapons could have moved across state lines. At any time such a big target like this is the target, something like the New York City subway station, the feds know that they have to be involved, that they have to help in any way, lend investigative power. This is something we heard from the White House, too. He wanted to make sure that FBI and DOJ was helping the NYPD with anything they needed in tracking down evidence or tracking down the suspect.
And Brad, police aren't calling this an act of terrorism, or at least not yet. They've said they're not looking at it through that lens. How do they go about determining that?
So, first of all, I think they're looking for anything that would address ideology. In other words, if you go and look at ISIS, Al-Qaeda, mass shooters, they have said things online or to someone else, or they find literature. Let's say they found something they didn't, obviously, but inside the U-Haul or other places that Mr. James has lived in, let's say, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, to support the idea that he's following some extremist group versus somebody that just has this awful idea in their head that they want to go harm people for a lot of, as Aaron pointed out, illogical reasons. And so I think that's where they're drawing a line. There's just no earmarks. That it doesn't actually change how you investigate the case. You still have to put the evidence together, which clearly NYPD with the Bureau and other people helping them, it sounds like if they're not there, they're almost there in being able to, if they arrest him, take him to trial if need be.
And Aaron, one of the big concerns anytime we have a mass shooting or an attack is somebody's going to try to copy that. These copycat attacks happen all the time. So how are law enforcement officials trying to prevent from anyone else trying to replicate this now?
They held transit police over for an extra shift so they can double the number of officers down in the subways. That's more window dressing, though, to make commuters feel safe. As Brad suggests, it's very hard to stop. But they've been dealing with a rash of crime in the subway, not all of it, thank goodness, gunfire, but stabbings and shovings and all sorts of unsavory characters lurking. And they've been trying to get a handle on this. In this particular case, they're hoping that this suspect is on the run without his credit card, without his phone, without means of transportation. But they are also concerned that he may have still had something on his person that would enable him to do something else again, should he desire.
Yeah, so the big priority right now, obviously, finding that suspect. Mary Alice, what's the reaction from Washington to all of this?
You haven't heard that much from the president, from the White House yet, Diane. They made it clear that the president is getting updates. The president himself sort of gave a call out just to the first responders and civilians that stepped into harm's way, said that he knows law enforcement can't rest until the suspect, the perpetrator, is apprehended. But I'm reminded of the fact that just this week we saw the president rolling out new regulations around gun control, and this push from this president to get Congress to act on gun safety. We normally see another push, a larger sort of reinvigorated push for gun safety when we have attacks like this, conversations about where weapons came from, if they were obtained legally or illegally, what else could be done. But so far, we have just seen all gun safety legislation completely stalled on Capitol Hill, and that has been an extreme point of frustration for this White House.
All right, ABC senior investigative reporter Aaron Katursky, ABC News contributor and former FBI agent Brad Garrett, and ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
All right, everybody. That's ABC News. So you're getting a glimpse into who Mr. Frank is. I'm going to play more commentary pertaining to Mr. Frank James. Who is he? Why did he do this? Why did he do this? NYC subway shooting suspect in custody. ABC News is the source. Thank you for joining me.
New York City have announced a major break in this massive manhunt for the suspect wanted in that horrific subway shooting in Brooklyn, New York, in what's been a very tense 24 hours across this city. At this hour, police now say a suspect is in custody. The news coming just hours after authorities officially named Frank James as the suspect wanted for the attack. James is now in custody, we believe, at the 9th precinct here in Manhattan. He'd previously been considered a person of interest, the suspect allegedly opening fire inside a subway car as it was pulling into the 36th Street station in Brooklyn. This was yesterday morning, as you know. right at the tail end of rush hour. At least 10 people were shot or wounded. In fact, 29 people injured in all. 5 of those 10 people were initially in critical condition. We learned throughout the day yesterday that their condition was then stable. It's just a miracle that everyone survived this, given the fact that they were trapped in that car as the train was moving. He unleashed a smoke on them before opening fire. Police say the suspect was wearing that construction vest at the time, a gray hoodie. Witnesses said he was mumbling to himself minutes before putting on a gas mask, then setting off 2 smoke grenades and opening fire in the middle of that train. I want to bring in our investigative reporter, Aaron Katursky, who covers the beat here in New York. And Aaron, what are your sources telling you about how they got him, where he is right now?
They have tracked this suspect through multiple states, David. Finally, he was spotted by bystanders wandering around the East Village here in Manhattan. And that's when authorities responded and picked him up and took him to the 9th Police Precinct. We're not sure whether he has been formally arrested and charged, but he is now in custody. Frank James was named a suspect, upgraded from person of interest, after authorities were able to figure out he bought a gun in 2011 in Ohio legally from a pawn shop, and that gun matched the ballistics from the subway shooting. They also, from his credit card, were able to figure out that he had purchased a gas mask on eBay, very much like the one that bystanders said he put on before releasing those smoke canisters and opening fire in the subway. David, this manhunt was the most urgent priority here in the city and across the country with the U.S. Marshals. And Frank James, the 62-year-old, is now in custody.
Aaron, as you know, the city was on edge because he was still at large. You were reporting here last night on World News Tonight and throughout the day today that they had connected him, at least initially, to an address in Wisconsin, and then there was the connection in Philadelphia before they then searched that U-Haul truck. You were the one who first reported it was the credit card that they used. They found at the scene connecting them to that vehicle.
They found a credit card right there on the subway platform, along with a number of other items that pointed to James's identity. And once they had the credit card, they could see all sorts of purchases that he made. They knew the credit card was used to purchase a U-Haul in Philadelphia, and that U-Haul was found parked just a few miles from the shooting scene, right near a different subway station where it's believed that Frank James entered the subway system sometime on Tuesday morning. The authorities were able to get a picture of him. The camera in that subway station was working, unlike the 36th Street station in Sunset Park where the shooting occurred, where the cameras were not working. But that picture circulated among law enforcement along with eyewitness video, and the authorities had a pretty good beat on who they were looking for. It was just a matter of finding him, David.
Again, for those who are just tuning in, we're now on the air with live coverage of Frank James, the suspect in the New York City subway attack, the mass shooting that played out yesterday morning, now in custody here in New York City at the 9th Precinct here in Manhattan. My colleague Amy Robach, who was on the scene earlier today, telling me the strength of New Yorkers. They were back using that same subway stop this morning. In fact, as they walked by her, they said, "Is it back up and running? Is the subway stop open?" She told them yes, and they headed back down in and headed right to work. The strength of New York on full display these last 24 hours. In fact, after this attack, you could see images of witnesses, bystanders actually helping those who were still inside the train car and on the platform. Here are the images of the people coming off the train moments after that smoke that was let off on the train. He brought several canisters inside that bag before unleashing gunfire. I want to bring in Janae Norman, who is on the scene for us again today. Janae, I'm curious if the news has made it to people there in that neighborhood.
Yes, David, it hasn't yet. We've not heard from anyone here that they have heard the news. We have not told anyone here. We're just getting this news in the last few minutes. But when you talk about the resilience of New Yorkers, I'm standing here right outside the entrance to the 36th Street station here in Brooklyn. We're seeing people coming and going. And you have to remember, this was essentially a 30-hour-long manhunt looking for Frank James. That means yesterday after this happened during the morning rush hour, we still went through the evening rush hour. And again, the morning rush hour this morning without this man having been captured. And when we've got the updates from police and have court officials say how this could have been so much worse based on what they found in the subway station after finding the shooter's backpack along with 2 smoke grenades, 2 more undetonated gas canisters. They say they found gasoline, a bag of fireworks, along with that weapon, that Glock 17 9mm handgun, 3 extended magazines, one in the backpack, one under a subway seat, one that they say jammed in the weapon after the shooter fired 33 times. They say this could have been so much worse. It will certainly be good news to the New Yorkers who are coming and going from the subway station when they learn that Frank James is in custody, David.
Janae Norman on the scene in Brooklyn. And as Janae points out, that was another sort of incredible detail that we learned. One of the weapons appearing to have jammed, which obviously potentially could have saved many lives. I want to bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, because Pierre, the FBI was brought in immediately on this case. Initially, the assessment from the NYPD was that this was coordinated. Of course, that led to immediate questions. Did that mean there were others involved? But at the outset of this, what they did know was that it appeared very well planned simply because of what he brought on that train with him.
Indeed, David. And one of the things we're hearing from sources that they did an incredible amount of work in the last 24 hours. Again, they do not believe anyone else was involved at this point. But David, they were able to trace the gun recovered at the scene to a Ohio purchase by Mr. James in 2011. They also are telling me that one of the key things that happened is that initially there was some discrepancy over the height of the suspect. Some of the witnesses were saying he was 5'5", but when they looked at his driving record, he was listed as 6'2". In the hours after the incident, they went back to witnesses with those photographs and the videos that they had, and some of the witnesses ID'd him directly as being involved in the attack. Additional information, we found out that where he bought the fireworks from, allegedly. So all this information came in. They were increasingly confident they had the right person. Finally today, they laid hands on him, David, and the key here now is they believe that they have thwarted potentially other attacks because they felt this person could strike again.
Particularly given what they've now discovered around the city, not only with that U-Haul, but what was left on the platform at that subway station in Brooklyn, our thanks to Pierre Thomas as well. Again, the breaking headline at this hour, Frank James is now in custody. He had initially been the person of interest until today when authorities then labeled him officially as the suspect. And that great detail from Pierre there. Initially, the reports from witnesses was that he was about 5'5". These are the kinds of things that the NYPD and the FBI worked so carefully to make sure they had the right person before going with these labels and moving in for this arrest. We've heard Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, repeatedly saying that they needed to be extraordinarily careful because not only did they want to apprehend him, they then wanted to prosecute him. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live, abcnews.com. And I should mention that we are expecting to hear from the NYPD a short time from now. If and when we do, we'll be back on the air.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the
ABC News is source number 2. Thank you for joining me. Very interesting information because this is how the wrong person gets arrested when people do not have the height, the weight, description, race, skin color correct. So I'm glad they were diligent to not just go find someone because I never thought he was 5'5". That's just a claim. When I first saw the photographs of his face, something told me this man is not 5'5". So I'd like to know who was the person who said he was 5'5". Very interesting information. Let's talk about who tipped the police off to Mr. Frank James. This is Everyday Shenanigans. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $McAngie, 129 Cash App. Thank you all so very much. I'll super chat to welcome during the live.
Right now, we are bringing you the very latest on the Brooklyn subway shooting. Police arresting Frank James just a few hours ago. We now know James called police on himself and gave authorities his location. He is believed to be the gunman who shot 10 people in a violent attack during peak transit hours yesterday morning. NewsNation's Tom Negevin is learning more about James' arrest after that shooting on the subway car. So, Tom, what does the NYPD know now that the 62-year-old is in custody?
Yes. Well, they've been learning a lot, actually, over the last 30 hours or so. He's at the 9th precinct, not here at police headquarters, One Police Plaza in Lower Manhattan, but the 9th precinct where he has been question for some time now, since his arrest this afternoon in the East Village of Manhattan, after that Crime Stoppers called that, yes, NYPD sources confirmed to News Nation he made it himself. And now video from our News Nation station, Pix 11 here in New York City, and you see the arrest in the East Village. Again, uneventful. He was initially reported to be, and there were multiple calls to Crime Stoppers or police, reporting he was at a McDonald's, wasn't there when patrolling officers very quickly arrived, but they made a couple of loops around the neighborhood, as Paul Gerke, who's on that scene, was telling us earlier, and spotted him on the corner very quickly, took him into custody, cuffed him, brought him in without incident. Apparently he has told them, that he had just had enough. It was time to turn himself in, time to come in. There's a $50,000 reward being offered for information that brought him in as of yesterday, when he was first named a person of interest and then a suspect in that horrible attack yesterday morning. No word on whether he thought that money might be up for grabs. And I don't mean that facetiously, but we know that mental health is an issue here. It's very, very clear given what's been going on YouTube and what investigators have been learning. So we do not take that lightly, but we do have to remember there are 29 people injured here, 10 with gunshot wounds, right, Nicole? 5 left in critical but stable condition in the wake of this, and more people terrorized by this. And he's now facing federal terror charges that could, because it was an attack on a mass transit system here in the U.S., put him behind bars for the rest of his life. Lots more to come, but so much, as you know, already unfolded in the past going on 30 hours.
Absolutely. And Tom, we'll check back in with you. Thank you for that. Correspondent Paul Gerke joins us now from the arrest scene. Paul, how were police able to ultimately capture him?
It was such a coincidence, but it was also good old-fashioned police work. That McDonald's that Tom was telling you about, 2 blocks up the street in this direction, south, right next to the hardware store where earlier in the show I told you that Zach, who was installing a surveillance camera, spotted the suspect. So whether or not he called himself into Crime Stoppers, someone was going to bring him into custody today. But police faced a real initial setback, those non-functioning security cameras around the 36th Street station in Sunset Park. But although police didn't spot him there, he still left a very lengthy trail of clues to his location. And we're still learning more about how detectives put this case together so quickly. It was a combination of that good old-fashioned police work, some new age technology, and a little luck. Hundreds of detectives spent the last day scouring surveillance footage in New York City, looking for their man. They found him boarding the subway at Kings Highway with the same black cart recovered at the scene of the shootings just a few stops away. The key to the U-Haul found at the scene was traced back to Philadelphia, where James rented it. The van was recovered just 3 blocks from that first surveillance picture. James is a New York City native, but has ties to several states, including New Jersey, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, where he bought the 9mm Glock used in the shootings at a pawn shop in 2011.
We were able to shrink his world quickly. There was nowhere left for him to run.
He was well known to law enforcement. James had 9 prior arrests in New York and 3 in New Jersey, dating back as far as 1992 and as recently as 2007 for a wide variety of offenses, including trespass, larceny, possession of burglary tools, and a sex crime.
For COVID, I lived there. You be in traffic jam all day.
His YouTube channel, which has been taken down, was filled with hate. It didn't provide a clear motive for his actions, but gave detectives plenty of clues and allowed them to draft a wanted poster by matching a still frame with that first surveillance shot at Kings Highway. And that reflective construction vest that witnesses spotted him in during the shooting was found at the scene. The helmet he was donning found in a nearby trash can inside a subway station. All the dots were starting to connect for police over the past 24 hours, and it just felt like an inevitability that some way, somehow, he was going to be brought to justice.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Paul Gerke, thank you for that. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of News Nation's fact-driven advice.
All right. Number 3, News Nation. Thank you all so much for following the content. As you see, Mr. Frank called the police on himself. I believe he called McDonald's, wasn't there. Maybe he wanted to play a little cat and mouse with them. But in the end, they found him lurking around. You see him exiting a building. I don't even know what that building was exactly because they didn't say. I'm very curious to know. It's very interesting information. Thank you for following the content. I'm trying to pull up everything that I can find that's relevant to this storyline. We're going to go over now to Inside Edition. Subway shooting suspect arrested was what his video diaries reveal. We will see.
Manhunt in New York history ended today with the arrest of the suspect cops believe carried out the subway mass shooting that caused utter terror during rush hour. While making his way to New York, the suspect filmed himself in a rented van, clearly full of anger. Les Trent begins our coverage.
They got him. The madman who cops say unleashed havoc on a New York subway train was captured today wandering around Manhattan. The NYPD says tips started pouring in after they released a wanted poster for the suspect, Frank James. A civilian spotted him walking down Canal Street in Lower Manhattan. Another witness saw him at this McDonald's. Police responded to the report that the suspect was inside this McDonald's, but when they got here, he was not inside. They did, however, find him just a few blocks away, and you will not believe what he was doing. Witnesses say the man who allegedly wreaked so much havoc on this city was simply standing right here, charging his phone.
I see the guy. We catch the guy, man.
The arrest at 1:42 p.m. was captured on video by multiple bystanders.
You ought to die. You ought to incinerated.
James is 62 years old, a drifter who posts angry videos on YouTube under the moniker Prophet of Truth.
I am driving.
A day-by-day timeline is emerging from the video diary. Last month, he was living in Milwaukee when he suddenly packed up and drove to Philadelphia.
We're heading back into the danger zone, so to speak. And it's triggering a lot of negative thoughts, of course.
From Philadelphia, cops say he rented a U-Haul van and drove to New York. That's the van crossing the Verrazano Bridge in Brooklyn the morning of the subway attack. In this exclusive surveillance video obtained by WCBS, we see a man who looks like Frank James, disguised as a construction worker, walking to the subway to allegedly carry out the bloody assault. Notice he's carrying a tote and wheeling around a bag that police say contained a hatchet, 2 gas canisters, a 9mm handgun with 3 extended magazines. Also, a stash of fireworks that he bought in Wisconsin. And here's the receipt. He paid $14.99 for a 6-pack of smoke bombs.
He was talking to himself the whole time.
Subway passenger Fachim Jalasji says he was sitting across from the suspect on the N train when the attack commenced.
He was just shooting boom, boom, boom. I was like, whoa, this guy's crazy.
He says the man pointed the gun at him and fired twice, leaving bullet holes in his pants. Only by some miracle was he not hit.
All I gotta say, I'm lucky to live. That's all I'm gonna say. I got really lucky.
Cops say James fired 33 times into the subway car, hitting 10 people. The subway station where the mayhem took place is open today, and as you can see, the platform has been scrubbed clean of blood. The subway attack has not helped New York City's battered image as the city fights rising crime and the pandemic. Real Housewives of New York's Bethany Frankel says she's fed up with the crime.
New York City is not safe.
You've got to take the handcuffs off the police, flood the system, do stop and frisk, and return some civility to the subway system. That's our veins and arteries. If you don't, Sean, New York City will never recover.
But today, there is relief in the city as the suspect in Tuesday's rush hour nightmare is apprehended.
My fellow New Yorkers, we got it. We got it.
Inside Edition. It's the source. Okay, I'm going to go through all this information. I guess I will play the press conference. Then I'll get into my commentary pertaining to this crazy nonsense. Well, let's see. That was a day ago. I thought there was something else I wanted to play for you guys. Hold on one second. I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm already 29 minutes in. If I find something else, I will play it. Frank R.James. Who is he? He was on the watch list for the FBI. They took him off. Why? Had a YouTube channel, Prophet of Truth. How long did he have a YouTube channel? Why didn't YouTube take down his sad information? Because it's free speech. So long as you're not threatening to kill anyone. Did he threaten to kill anyone on the YouTube channel? Social media posts, obviously not. Drifting from place to place. Yet NYPD says he wasn't going to go anywhere. No, you can't say that because he chose to let you get him. He caught you. But he was walking around nonchalant in New York under your nose because he didn't have any empathy. That's what a sociopath, psychopath does. They don't have any empathy. So it doesn't matter. He could have gone somewhere else. He's left one city to another. If I'm to read the notes correctly and repeat what they said, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Wisconsin, he's been everywhere. He's left one place to the other. You just said he's a drifter. Last month, he was in Milwaukee, packed up for some reason, went to Philadelphia, rented a van in Philadelphia with a credit card, and then went to New York. Yet rant and rave about New York, but he hasn't even been living here. So when was the last time he lived in New York? So many questions. Who is Mr. James? He has an extensive criminal record. He's a burglar. Sex crime. What is a sex crime? Against whom? What year? What was the crime? What was the charge? And how much time did he get? Last arrest, I believe, is in 2007. If it is not correct, I will put a correction in this commentary at the bottom, the comment box. So he's been doing for 15 years, not committing crimes. Perhaps he got tired of picking locks and stealing from people. Stay woke. He wobbled, so that lets you know his health has been declining, so he probably can't get around as well to burglarize people and things. Slow motion now. Does he work? Does he have income, Social Security, disability? Is he mental, schizophrenic, bipolar? What's his problem? But the fact that he moved from place to place, buying different items, such as the gas mask, ordering it on eBay, lets you know he had planned this beforehand. Because everybody knows it takes a day to a few days to receive mail and packages. So he planned it. 6'2". Yep, someone said he was 5'5". Who was the person that said he was 5'5"? Now imagine had they arrested some bloke that was actually 5'5". They'd have had to let him go eventually, we would hope. You see, that's why you have to be very careful in allegedly IDing people. This is why a lot of people are actually incarcerated, have been let go after numerous years behind prison walls because somebody got it wrong. And it has been known that fair-skinned people usually don't do a good job in identifying brown-skinned people. It's been proven. It's not a myth. It has been proven. Oprah Winfrey did a show on it many years ago. Showed some people's pictures in a lineup, took them down, put them back up, asked the audience to get it right, and sadly, many did not. So now imagine these same people going into a real police lineup saying, yeah, that's the guy, that's the lady, and they got it wrong. And some innocent person gets arrested. What makes a 62-year-old man go ham? Mad at the world, moving around, drifting. If you're drifting from place to place, it seems to me you wouldn't give a damn about what's going on in New York, Chicago, because you're not staying anywhere long enough. So where was the last place Mr. James lived? Because this sounds very chaotic. This entire situation, him moving from place to place. leaving Wisconsin a month ago, goes to Philadelphia. How long was he there? He couldn't have been there long. Then he goes and rents a van, and it's a nice-sized van. A nice-sized van to have a lot of damage in it, if you get my drift. Tools and such to harm said people. They say he was a drifter, so that means he's been living from place to place. So who has he been staying with? Friends, family, where are you all? Waiting for one of you all to come forward and tell us who the real Frank R.James is. Children, grandchildren, married, girlfriends, lovers, boyfriends? What are we talking about? When was the last time he had a mate, a lover? We will see what happens. And yes, amen, nobody was harmed. Why did he call the police to tell them he was tired, to come get him? 30 hours, he couldn't hang. They said he was on the subway. He bought a Metro card, transportation card, which would lead one person to think he was going to stay in New York for a while, at least a month, depending on if he bought a weekly pass or a monthly pass. So what was the infinite plan for New York City by Mr. James? So you're complaining about homeless people in the subway, sir. Them smelling up the cars, stinky. You're mad at the mayor. But yet, Ellie says you bought a car and you were riding the subway afterwards in the evening yourself. So were you sleeping on the subway, sir? The night of the crime? I believe Mr. James is delusional. I believe he's talking about himself when he rants and raves. That's what I think. And we as people tend to do that. We talk about people who are really similar to ourselves. Because it's easy to judge, it's easy to change. Reform thyself. Is he a reformed burglar? Well, he's not reformed as far as mischief because he just tried to kill several people on a subway. So this man who's a burglar, sex crime, became a ranting and raving about the world and this and that to only become a person that tried to kill people. It's all jacked up. All jacked up. He said he had had enough when he called the police to tell him where he was. Enough of what, Mr. James? What have you had enough of? We know you couldn't get the money for the reward. They're not going to give you the money because they already knew who you were. So once they found you, you couldn't get the money. Whether they found you, whether you called. Prophet of Truth was his YouTube channel. It's now been taken down by YouTube. He left clothes around in garbage cans. Why? It seems to me you wanted to get caught. See, I thought you were going to kill yourself. But I did say in my commentary, please don't do that. We want to hear from you. We want to know why you did this. So maybe some others can understand the human mind, preventive measures, which we already know it probably won't make a bit of difference because you can't control the human mind. And most people don't go get help when they're ill. So that's one problem right there. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm all right. But see, we have to ask ourselves, how many people knew Mr. James was off his rocker? How many times did somebody look at his social media posts and say to themselves, it's only a matter of time before this fella goes off? So, how long has he been feeling this way towards the world? He's mad about Ukraine. He's mad at the white people, allegedly. He's mad at the mayor of New York City. He's mad at the homeless people who are sleeping and slumbering in the subway and on the trains and stinking it up. He was complaining about the traffic. You're doing a lot of complaining for somebody that just got to New York. But yet they said you are a New York native. So you know how it goes in New York. Excuse me. So very sorry. Did you want to get caught, Mr. James? Was that the plan? You're sick of living, sick and tired of being sick and tired. Things aren't going your way. probably didn't have a permanent residence, which I told a guy that today at a store. I said, he was a drifter, what they said. He was sleeping in that U-Haul from what they said. And obviously, it's the truth. You're a drifter. That's what's been said. So you're talking about the same people who are like yourself. So basically, you're mad at yourself. So what you did in that subway was a reflection of who Frank R.James is. A nobody. A lonely black man, mad at the world, bitching, moaning, complaining about what ain't right, and want to take everybody down because he's angry. He's angry. Very angry. He bought the gun in Ohio a while back, 2011. That really don't count. You weren't a felon. You have a lot of crimes you've committed, but you're not a felon. So by law, he can purchase a gun. So you can't say he bought the gun for this crime because he already had it 11 years ago. Purchased the credit card, the gas mask on eBay. We know it takes a few days to get mail. So you've been plotting this for at least a couple of days to a week. Longer, perhaps. Multi-state investigation. They're worried about copycats. As I said, it won't matter because people are vile. You can't control the human mind. So you can ask 1,000 questions. How can we curb crime? You can't. You can give longer sentences. You can give the death penalty. Hell, you probably could even do public humiliation, hangings, sentences. It wouldn't matter. Somebody's still going to go out and hurt somebody. People do it every day. People watch the news. They watch true crime documentaries. They see what happens to people who get caught putting hits out on people, killing people for money, greed, love, lust. Yet they'll still go out and run over their spouse, mate, shoot everybody in a crowd of a party, function, because they can. See, that's the one thing some of you don't seem to understand about mayhem. Don't ask why, ask why not. I did it because I could. That's what he did. He ranted and raved long enough to say, well, I'm tired now. I don't talk about it no more. I'm going to go out. I can show you better than I can tell you. That's old black folks saying. I can show you better than I can tell you. And that's what Mr. James did. He showed you. And he's fed up. He's tired. But what he didn't understand is that we're all tired, fed up. But we don't go out buying products to try to harm people. Is he mental? Is he a racist? FBI removed him from the watch list. Why? How long was he on the list? What year did they put him on the list? No cameras in the station. Why? Why not? Police needs to be on the subway trains and inside of the subway station. Metal detectors probably won't work, as you heard the commentary here, because it's going to take too long trying to get people to board. New York is filled with people coming and going out of state, out of other jurisdictions. You'd be all day trying to board a train in the subway. So that's not going to work. But they need to have law officials in the subway, outside the subway, and on the platforms alongside the train cars. Burglary. What kind of burglary was he doing 15 or so years ago? Sex crime. What, where, how long? Did he do any time? Who's the victim? Will we even get information? Probably so. Subway reopened. Business as usual in New York City. See, nothing stops, even for the Big Apple. He had gasoline, they said. Well, Mr. James, what were you going to do with the gasoline? Did you get scared, Mr. James? You set off that cocktail, smoke bomb, or whatever, and that train probably spooked you. And you realized, hell, I better get out of here. And you were smart enough to wear gas masks your damn self, as not to pass out. Imagine that. The suspect is lying down from his own doings. Now, that'd have been something. Gasoline. You had gasoline. What were you going to do with that? See, as you have learned thus far, that even criminals complain about the world, because that's the whole point of living. Just because you've done wrong doesn't mean you don't have the right to moan and groan about things. He's lived in several locales. He's traveling from one place to the next, buying gear for this event. Why? Why did you leave your credit card in the subway? Why did you leave the gun in the subway? Were you telling the world you wanted to be caught? Here, I'm laying out the calling cards. Come find me. And as you see, he didn't kill himself. So it is what it is. But I find it weird you left the credit card, because the fact that you were walking around New York after the fact leads me to believe you wanted to watch the world. You didn't kill yourself. You didn't hop on a plane, train somewhere else. So why were you walking around? How long were you planning on just walking around, drifting, riding the subway? Because basically they said you were tired. So 30 hours later, you folded. Told the police where you could be found. And luckily they found you and you didn't wreak any more harm in New York City. But I just find it very strange you leaving the gun and the credit card behind and leaving your clothes in different dumpsters, garbage cans. Very strange behavior. Like I said, it sounded like you wanted to be caught. Did you want to get caught because you were tired of living as a drifter like the people you've been complaining about, the homeless people? Because I've heard of people committing crimes to actually get a bed in jail. Some of you probably saying to yourself, now, Angela, I've never heard of that. Well, I have. There are people who go out, deliberately commit petty crimes just so they can get a warm place to stay in the county jail. But you see, sir, you're going to go past the county jail because they're offering life for these said crimes in that subway yesterday. So you're going to have a long sleep in a prison cell and you're going to die in there. You're 62 years old. I watched you walk down the street in the video surveillance and you don't look like you've got a lot of pep in your step. Hell, you're moving slower than the Queen. Come on now. You got 11 years on the Queen. I don't think you're doing too well. I think you possibly did this so you could have a place to sleep. How about that? As I said, did he mean to get caught? Why did he call in the said location? He appears to be homeless himself. How does he get money? Did he have a job? Was he drawing unemployment? Was he drawing Social Security, disability? Where is his family? Married, kids, friends? What has he been doing for the past 30 hours before he called the police on himself? Said he rode the subway. Why? Why didn't he go somewhere else out of town? And as I said, when was the last time he lived in New York City? Is this his way of getting permanent housing in the county jail and the judicial system? Because he no longer wanted to be out there on the street himself. Did he have a permanent place to live? They say it was an uptick of crime in the New York City subways. So what's going on with that? You heard Bethany Frankel, who was a New York housewife, Real Housewives of New York, tell you that crime is horrible in New York. And naturally, most wealthy people that live in New York City, Manhattan, they don't fraternize in the boroughs, such as, Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Harlem. But you still can be a victim, rather you slum it, as they say. Because that's the whole point of life. When it's your time, it's your time. So there is no cure for crime, because as you've seen, the punishment doesn't mean anything. If your mind tells you you want to go kill somebody, then that's what your mind told you to go do. You told yourself that. The devil told you to go do it. You did it. So it doesn't matter about the death penalty, longer time in prison. You want me to believe these people don't know that they can go away for a long time when they decide to murder somebody? Mass shootings, cocktails, grenades, all that type of foolishness. Of course they know. They're not stupid. They're in their right frame of mind, most of them. They know exactly what they're doing. Solutions to crime? None. As I said, people will find a way to do what they want to do. And as I said, metal detectors will take up too much time. Will take up too much time. Because somebody would have to be there to watch you go in and out. To say, let me check your pockets. And there's just too many people going in and out of the subway system in New York for that type of protocol. That's basically my commentary pertaining to Frank R.James, 62 years of age, black male, apprehended for the shootings in the subway in New York City. The subway is back up and running. We will see if they will implement change cameras, policing, security in the subways, outside the subways. We'll also see who the real Frank James is and what happened to him mentally for him to go into that subway and attempt to kill those people. Because in the end, it really doesn't matter if he's a racist. I think he's just angry, period. Because allegedly, he complained about a lot of things. So he went from this, to Ukraine, to the homeless, to the mayor. He probably ranted about a lot of things. Very sad situation. Prayers for New York City. Prayers to the detectives who got on the job and did their job diligently to find Mr. James. And thank you, Mr. James, for leaving the clues behind and turning yourself in. Amen. Thank you. And prayers to those who survived. And thank God there were no fatalities. And prayers that we don't have to hear another story of a Frank R. James. I will wait to get commentary on more information pertaining to who he is, family, friends, neighbors. Somebody will have a story. Oh, I'm sure there are going to be lots of stories in the next couple of days. By Sunday, we will know who the real Frank R. James is. Next story, Summer Wells. Thank you for joining me. Everyday Shenanigans. Where did Summer Wells go June 15th before disappearing? WJHL is the source.
Since family members said Summer Wells disappeared from their home in Hawkins County, News Channel 11 continues to work to find answers. Tonight, Ansley Daniels in the Beach Creek community with a timeline of June 15th, 2021, leading up to that night.
We've walked you through what has happened since Summer Wells disappeared the night of June 15th. But for the first time, we walk you through that day with her mother and grandmother from their perspective just hours before she was reported missing.
Candace and I got up that morning. She came out and took me into the ER because my leg was messing up on me.
The hospital is about 25 minutes from the Wells Beach Creek home in Kingsport.
She took me into the hospital, and I ended up getting a shot for it to get rid of the pain. And they prescribed me medication.
Summer, her mother, and grandmother spent the day in the closest city to their house.
Then we waited around for my prescription. Summer went swimming that day at the horse stables, I believe it was.
We were waiting on my mother's prescription from the drugstore at Walgreens on Fort Henry.
The three, along with a friend that Candace describes as a minor, then came swimming here at Warriors Path State Park. It's where the last known video of Summer was taken and then posted to TikTok.
We had to wait for Mom's prescription at Walgreens, so we just went up to Warriors. There was all kinds of trash everywhere at Warriors when we showed up. And I let Summer out to play. And we just stood there for about 15, 20 minutes. And then we all got back in the truck and went and got Mom's prescription. And I took him home. And then we came home.
And so then Summer came back here with you later that afternoon, right?
Yes.
The trip from Warriors Path back to Ben Hill Road is just over 17 miles. But Bly couldn't recall how many hours that was before she reported her daughter missing. About how many hours was that before she was reported missing?
You know, I really can't tell you all the time details because time gets away from you when you're trying to enjoy yourself.
The three then returned here to their home on Ben Hill Road. A neighbor says that she first heard Candace calling for Summer around 6 o'clock that night. Police say that she was reported missing around half an hour later, around 6:30. In the Beach Creek community, Ansley Daniel, News Channel 11.
All right, everybody. WJHL is the source. Go to my community board for the said information. If you need verification for this content, I will now read you an article pertaining to this subject matter. Where did she go the day of June 15th? As this week marks 10 months since Summer Wells was reported missing from her Hawkins County home, News Channel 11 is working to find answers. News Channel 11 has walked through what has happened since Summer Wells disappeared the night of June 15th, but where did she go that day? Candace and I got up that morning and she come out and took me to the ER because my leg was messing up on me. Summer's grandmother, Candace Hare, told Ansley Daniel on March 1st in her only on-camera interview. The hospital is in Kingsport, about 25 minutes from the Wells Beach Creek home. She took me into the hospital and I ended up getting a shot for it to get rid of the pain. And they prescribed me medication, Hare recalled. Summer, her mother and grandmother, spent the day in closest city to their house. Summer, her mother and grandmother, spent the day in the closest city to their house. We waited around for my prescription. Summer went swimming that day at the horse stables, I believe it was, she said. Candace Bly, Summer's mother, recounted a similar day in her first on-camera interview. We were waiting on my mother's prescription from the drugstore at Walgreens on Fort Henry, Bly said. The three and a friend who Candace Bly described as a minor went swimming at Warriors Path State Park. That's where the last known video of Summer was taken and posted to TikTok. We had to wait for Mom's prescription at Walgreens, so we just went up to Warriors Path State Park. There was all kinds of trash everywhere at Warriors when we showed up. Stay woke, everybody. And I let Summer out to play, Bly said. And we just stood there for about 15, 20 minutes. And then we all got back in the truck and went and got Mom's prescription. And I took him home, and then we came home. In Bly's June 20th interview, she told News Channel 11, Summer returned with her to the Beach Creek home after the trip to the park. The trip from Warriors Path State Park back to Ben Hill Road is just over 17 miles. But Bly couldn't recall how many hours that was before she reported her daughter missing. You know, I really can't tell you all the time details because time gets away from you when you're trying to enjoy yourself, Bly said. Now, all those double negatives. The three then returned back to their home. A neighbor says she heard Candace calling for Summer around 6 p.m. on June 15th. Police say she was reported missing about an hour later around 6:30. In a June 15th report, Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson Wells was seen walking away from her home on Ben Hill around 7. I don't know how they worded that, but anyway. To see complete coverage of the search for Summer Wells, click here if you need to check out any more information pertaining to this case. WJHL is the source. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to chop it up now. June 15, 2021, a call goes into Sheriff's County, Hawkins County, about a missing child by the name of Summer Wells by Don Candace Wells. And since that call, there has been a lot of foolishness and rhetoric pertaining to her disappearance, narrative spun by the parents and outsiders who knew of the child, spent time with the child, and people who don't have a damn thing to do with the case. We're going to start with what was said to the news. That will show you that Candace Bly's a liar. Candace, the queen, stays woke. That's one thing I do well, even when I'm asleep. I'm woke. You see, the one thing a liar does that he doesn't even know that he or she is doing is they add a lot of words to describe something, someone, such as your first interview, you said, I don't take no walks nowhere because of bears, snakes, coyotes, blah, blah, blah. See, that never made any sense because the subject matter was about Summer and what she allegedly did on June 15th, not you. You're supposed to have said Summer wouldn't have walked off the property because of bears, snakes, coyotes, not you. See, everything's always been about you, and Mr. Don Wells. So that was my first bingo card. I don't walk around. But the subject was about Summer. When you describe, or your mother described to Miss Ansley about what happened that day, Grandma says, or you said rather, excuse me, it was trash everywhere. See, once again, too many wordings. Well, what does that have to do with anything? Because see, right there, you told on yourself. If it was so dirty and nasty, why did you stay? Why would you go swim, hang out, linger where there is trash? But yet you told Chris McDonough you went to this place because it was quieter than other places that were allegedly deemed cleaner. And it has been said by several people who live in the area, that's not a great place to swim because the water is dirty and murky. And we saw that with our own eyes from the shore. Branches coming up out of the ground, out of the water rather, sticking straight up out of the water. Why would anyone want to go swim in that? And you could actually see the dirt through the water. Is this a place that you would want to swim, wade, and also take your children? Of course not. But yet you did anyway, because you have that type of ignorant mindset, backwards thinking. You told on yourself. Yeah, we went there. There was a lot of trash. So somebody with sense should have said, well, then why did you continue to get out of the car? We saw the trash. Why didn't you get back in the car and go somewhere else? You mean to tell me that that water didn't stretch around the bend to another cleaner area? Stay woke, everybody. Then your interview with the news. First interview. I don't walk anywhere. You see, you were responding to social media commentary. You had heard people talking. Ronnie Lawson, in this commentary, they decided to put him in the mix, saying that the child was seen walking on Ben Hill Road. Well, who said that? Because I never heard that in the beginning. Because I came in 2 weeks after she was reported missing, covering the story. So where and whom saw the child walking on the road? And see, that makes no sense. Because now you have to ask yourself, who told Ronnie Lawson that the child was walking on Ben Hill Road? Who's that person? And if the person saw the child walking on the road, why didn't you go fetch the child? Ask her where she was going. Where is she coming from? Is she lost? You see, this is why this makes no sense. So I'm going to ask again. I guess I'm going to ask Mr. Lawson. Mr. Lawson, who said the child was walking down the road? because now that person is responsible for watching a 5-year-old wander down the road without inquiring where she was going. See, that's why I told you all this case never made any sense from the beginning. All these extra details from Miss Earhart. They've never seen a case like this with no information. A few days into investigation. The fact that we're 10 months in and the child has not surfaced, alive or deceased. The parents on social media, back and forth, bickering, arguing, talking in circles and riddles with different random people, crying, fussing, father now incarcerated. The mother is left to her own device, and it's just a hot-ass mess. And now you have the nerve to tell somebody that you think your child is possibly alive. So I'm going to ask you this, Candace Bly, why now you believe that your child is alive? I'm curious. Somebody who didn't have a child, wanted a child, and they took her. But as somebody said, how'd they get up there to get her? Your children were left unattended, your boys, all day long. But yet somebody who wanted a child lied in wait and came and got your girl child, which looked like a boy. And we've debunked just about every theory known to man pertaining to an abduction, possibly even her wandering off. So, Candace, I want to ask you, with this new commentary with your newfound buddy, are you trying to tell people that you sold your child to somebody or you handed your child off for a better life and that your child is alive somewhere here in America? Well, let's dissect that for just a second, if indeed it is allegedly true. What fool is going to keep a child after finding out that the parents have filed a missing persons report? How are they going to then turn her over? How are they going to raise her? She can't go outside. She can't play with other children. She can't go to school. She can't have a life. So what would be the point in keeping her? Then that means a person would have to, as I said, keep her hidden. How's that going to work? They want to show off their new child. And wouldn't people question where your child came from? That looks like the little girl that's missing from Tennessee. Oh, no, that's not her. You've got the wrong kid. Come on now. Are you trying to spin a new narrative? Candace Bly. Lord have mercy. When Don went away to jail, that was just, it was a good thing, but maybe not so good, because now you're left to talk. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, somebody needs to shut you up because you're not making any sense. And I'm sure he's in there turning over, damn near like a dead person, wondering why you won't stop talking. But he has no control now. Did you sell your child? Candace, is that where you're trying to take this story now? You sold her? And as I said, how they're going to raise her locked in. And you've reported her missing. There's an active Amber Alert for her. That wouldn't make any sense. And if they returned her, they'd probably be scared. They'd go to jail for buying a child if indeed they gave you money for a child. Why don't you just tell the truth and we can end this charade? Because this is old to me. These mind games you've been playing, you and your husband. $6:00. A neighbor says she heard you screaming, hollering for Summer. But the weird thing is the call went into the dispatch about what? 6:29, 6:27. So we're talking about roughly 30 minutes, under 30 minutes. Why would it take you that long to call law officials? You wanted to look around first to make sure you didn't see your child somewhere, over here, over there. Okay, let's go call the police now. We can't find her. But I believe you posted something to, social media, TikTok at about 6:09, and it's a picture of Summer and I believe her brothers. So one would say, if a person heard you hollering for her at 6:00 in the evening, why are you posting to social media almost 10 minutes later. Why would you have that kind of time to be posting to social media photographs if you are looking for your child? Because you were setting the stage all along. The fact you told this woman, Miss Ansley, you lose track of time when you're having fun, it's a bunch of bull. We know you know what time it is. You just don't want to say it because you didn't plan this crime carefully. Be it accidental, intentional, or spur of the moment. All three of you know what happened to Summer Wells and where she can be found. I believe that. Because your wordings tell me that you have knowledge where she is. Because you keep changing things. And when a person 10 months in, still changing the narrative, adding stuff, that leads me to believe they have full-blown knowledge of where the child can be found. What happened June 15th, Candace? Did you sell your child? Did you loan your child out? The person didn't bring her back? Was there an accident between you or somebody else, one of the children? Or did you maliciously kill your child and discarded your child, and you and Don and your mom are holding that secret? As they say, we're going to take it to the grave. Will the truth be revealed to what happened to Summer Wells? The odd thing about this story is that you stayed gone all day. And you return home with that said girl child who then goes missing from the mount. But your three who are left alone, nothing happens to them. So what are the odds? What are the odds that a person stays gone all day with child one, return home hours later with child one, and other children were left behind all day and nothing happened to them? Felonious. But the child that was gone all day with the parent returns home with that said parent and grandmother, and that child then goes missing. Make it make sense. What are the odds? Maybe we need a mathematician up here, and they can say, Angie, here are the odds of a child being gone all day and return to the holler going missing when three other ones were there alone all damn day. No charges were ever filed for you and Donna Wells for neglect, abuse, or any other type of felonious abuse against your said children, and you giving a minor alcohol on June 15th, which he admitted on a public platform, the said 15-year-old boy. Why is that? Why have there been no charges of abuse by the said parents toward their children, neglect of leaving boys alone all damn day, and allegedly being investigated? So perhaps, as I told you all, what you thought was going on was not, because these two have been roaming free up until Mr. Wells got arrested, and now the wife is still free. No arrests, no ramifications. What is the truth? Many of you question if Grandis was ever at the park. But as you hear in this commentary, her interview with Miss Ansley, she finally decided to open her mouth months later, which is also suspect. She lets it be known they all were waiting for the medicine and went over to the park, all of them, all four, to wait on the medicine. So did that clear up any misunderstandings to some of you? That Grandis was there? But you hear her saying, Candace, we stood around for 15 or 20 minutes. So who stood around? Because the only pictures we see of anybody in the water is Summer. So basically you're saying Summer was in the water while two adults and a 15-year-old stood on the bank. Thank you for the sticker. So while you're standing around, possibly you were not paying attention to your child. Murky water, dirty water, unkempt water, for anybody to be swimming in. There's dirt in there. Splashing that dirt around with water, get it in your eye, get your eyes contaminated. You're just not a very bright person for your age, which is baffling to me. For you to have so many kids, to be in the world almost 40 years, you have the mind of a child, the disposition of a child, and you don't have any empathy. That's why I know you did something to your child, because you sit up on social media and talk and gab as if you don't have one damn kid or a kids you want back in your possession. Where is Summer Wells? Will we get to the truth of where the child is? Will one of the parents finally reveal where the child is, or the grandmother? The grandmother also says in an interview that she doesn't know if Don Wells hired an attorney, but she knows that Candace has it because Candace would have told her. But yet Mr. Lawson has told you the family has lawyered up. And what reason would he have to lie? Or is this just a ploy to get them talking scared? I don't know. I don't know. But this is a dangerous game, because we have a district attorney general speaking, a Mr. Pruitt, lead detective speaking, yet nobody knows anything. Nobody has any viable information to give the public pertaining to the whereabouts of the child. And it's just a lot of foolishness that has been exacted in her name by her bio donors and said parties that knows them or know of them, but nothing about Summer and who she is. As I've told some of you the other day, I had a dream about her, very weird dream. It appeared that I was in Chicago or in a city, because the apartment looked like a city apartment. And in this apartment, I was talking to Candace, asking her, where is Summer? And she kept saying, she's all right. She's all right. She is alive. Now, mind you, this was days ago when I had the dream. And she finally says, well, look, she's with a friend, okay? She's with a friend. So I said, well, who is the friend? And how long is she going to be with this friend? Well, she's going to be with her for about a year, she says. So I was like, Candace, stop lying. Why do you keep lying about this kid? So finally, some lady shows up, walks in the door. I don't know if this is supposed to be the friend or not, but she had a nonchalant attitude. And she was reaching up on the refrigerator and grabbed like a small box of cookies, like she was trying to conceal it. And I caught her and I said, what are you doing? That doesn't belong to you. Don't you ask first before taking things that don't belong to you? And she just snarled at me. And I told the lady, put the cookies back. This ain't your house. And I didn't send for you. There was a weird mix of going-ons and comings and goings in this apartment. Yeah, I believed it was my apartment. But I was trying to figure out, what the hell am I doing in this apartment talking to Candace Bly? Why are these strange people walking in my house, taking things off the refrigerator? Where is this baby? Why is this mother acting nonchalant about her child, still lying? And then it jumps out that dream into a scene of a bunch of children lined up in rows making snow angels. Now, I can't exactly say if it was actually snow on the ground, but the children were mimicking making snow angels. And in this visual, Summer was smiling. Now, remember the dream I had of her a few months ago, where she was in a room filled with elderly people eating fruit with her head down, and I kept calling her name, and she wouldn't answer. And I kept saying, Summer, Summer, is that you? What are you doing here? She never responded. But in this dream, she was smiling. She and the other children were having a good time. All of them. And I do believe her brothers were in this dream with her. But that's what I wanted to share with you all. Is that in this second dream, after I've inquired to Candace Bly about where her child is, the dream jumps into, I think, another dream where Summer is making snow angels with her brothers and other children. There's a lot of children, and they all appear to be happy. So I don't know if that's a message or what, but I do find it interesting that I had a dream days ago that I'm talking to Candace in an apartment, and she's telling me the child is alive. And this is before I even knew of her interview where she's telling people she thought the child is alive with somebody that wanted a kid. Because I don't follow Candace Bly's content or other content where she talks. Very interesting. Where is Summer Wells? Is she alive? Was she sold to somebody that wanted a child, couldn't have a child of their own, wanted a girl child, wanted a beautiful girl that the parents barter her, sell her, loaned her off, killed her intentional, accident? What happened? Very interesting. If you'd like to give commentary, I'll drop the link. If nobody hits it, I will check out of here. But I thank you all for listening to my information pertaining to the New York shootings. Prayers for those said people. And prayers to the detectives that got the job done and solved the crime. Amen. And prayers for this child and her brothers, that the truth will be revealed to where she can be located, and prayers that they will have a productive and successful life, the brothers. We will see what happens. I doubt that we'll get any information because by law, no one can tell us anything pertaining to the boy children. That's expected. Oh, mercy. How did it come to be this? Very sad. If you have something you'd like to say pertaining to the shootings in New York or the Summer Wells case or both, please hit the link. Give your commentary. Thank you for joining me. This is a two-part live pertaining to the New York shootings and the disappearance of Summer Wells, marking 10 months this week. Thank you. You're welcome, dear. 107 in the room. Thank you. Very, very sad situation. I never thought it would go this long. We'd still be talking about where the child is. No information. No new searches this month or last month. It's very sad. If any of you out there would like to hit the link to give your opinion pertaining to the shootings in New York and or this case pertaining to Summer Wells 10 months in, feel free to hit the link. You're welcome, sweetheart. Where you think this case is going, where it's not going. What do you think of the suspect arrested in New York City? He turned himself in, told the police where he could be found, and they went in and apprehended him without incident. Mr. Frank R.James. Thank you all for joining me. Sadly, these cases tend to mirror one another, whether they are white children, Black, Hispanic. They all mirror one another. And that's the point I was making about the crime in New York, is that even after yesterday's events, it will happen again somewhere in America, abroad. Someone will get angry and decide to wreak havoc and harm others because they are angry and mad at the world. And that's just the world we live in. So it doesn't really matter what you think we should be doing, law officials should be doing, prevention. There is no prevention when the mind is warped because you don't know people. A person doesn't naturally have to say, well, I'll go get a gun and shoot people. Maybe they don't want to use a gun. Maybe this day they'll use a bat, a knife, a truck, a car. See, that's what people don't understand. You can find any tool to harm people or use your bare hands. And that has happened. Get in a car, mow people down, standing in the road, whether they're protesting or gathering for an event. Man shooting out of a window at a country music festival in Vegas. See, people are sick. I still never understood why he did that. His brother was stunned. He had a girlfriend. He had a good life. He was well off. So what was wrong with him? See, you don't know people. As I was reading a post from a woman talking about, I believe, her brother, saying he was happy, smart, but he killed himself. But maybe to her, that was her perception. But maybe he wasn't happy because I don't see a happy person killing him or herself. Doesn't matter if they were smart, well off. You just don't up and kill yourself. And I wouldn't deem you a happy person if you took your own life. But that's her perception. You have no control over people. And that's the problem. You don't know what somebody's going to do. You can take all the precautions as far as being a woman out here, coming and going from your home, school, work, and still your guard will be down on that one day when something bad can happen to you. Same thing for a man or a child. It's all the same. Because you don't have control of others. If somebody wants to do harm to you on that day, he or she, they will. And sadly, we have people who have children who don't need them. And they don't have the mindset to rear the children. You see, it's easy to procreate. Anybody can lie down and have sex with somebody. Look up, sperm and egg met, now there's a baby. The woman carries the baby in her tummy and then pushes the baby out 9 months later. Voila, magic. But not so. Thank you, Gina. Animals reproduce every day. So that's why it's not literally magic. Because it was a design by God for man and woman to procreate. Same thing with animals. But yet, look at the two. Same method, yet so different. Different results. We can't just push children out 2 months into life and say, go fend for yourself. Because they're humans, they're not animals. This is just a very sick situation. No, you're not. Yes, we need to pray more. But a lot of people don't believe in God and don't pray. That is his or her prerogative. But in a situation such as Summer Wells, Cal City Boys, the event that took place in New York, you definitely need to believe in God. Because if you don't, you're probably going to fall by the wayside. And God forbid you end up like Frank R.James. Because that is why a lot of people are lifeless and hopeless. They don't have God in their life. Because if you have God in your life, you possibly won't end up like Candace and Don, Frank R.James. Do you see what I'm saying? You'll care more about yourself. And you'll pray to God that he'll work with you in your worst hour to not become a news story and a YouTube video. You have to pray about it. Ask God to give you strength. Remove the lumps and clumps and bumps in the road to not end up in jail for doing something felonious. Thank you, Sydney. Because we're all human. And yes, we all make mistakes and can pop off, get mad, get angry, lash out. But it can't be the answer, because that's the point. If everybody popped off, got mad about something, jumped on stage and slapped a man, there'll be nobody here. If everybody popped off, everybody got mad, made bombs and detonators and smoke bombs and got a gun and filled it up with ammunition, just start shooting, beat your baby up, suffocate your baby, drown your baby. You see where I'm going with this? There'll be nobody here. There will be nobody here. I don't like what he said to me. Pop, pop, pop. I don't like this kid. Get rid of him. I don't like my husband. Get rid of him. Sick of my wife. Get rid of her. Hate my neighbor. Get rid of him. Stupid coworker. Get rid of him. Dumbass boss. Get rid of him. There'll be nobody here. There will be nobody here. Just like the movie Purge, for those who've seen it. Imagine a couple of hours into the evening, you get to purge, knock off people, and then go back to living normal in the AM. That would be a horrific sight. That would be a horrific sight. But sadly, that is what many people are basically doing to one another. It's purging people off for whatever reason. Be it they did something to them or didn't. Or the perception, he, she did something to me. I don't want them around anymore. But many crimes are victimless crimes. The people just did it because they wanted to. And that's why most crimes are committed. It's not that somebody did something to them. They did it because they could. Same thing with having a child. I don't need her. I don't want her. I can't relate to her or him. So I'm going to suffocate my kid, put my kid in the driveway, run over my baby, put my baby in the tub. However, the deed is done. Now go cry, somebody stole my baby. My baby's missing. Somebody carjacked my car. Some black man stole my baby. Some Hispanic woman stole my baby. Just utter lies. Utter lies. Get somebody hurt off of a lie that you orchestrated because you didn't want your kid. Casey Anthony, Susan Smith. Start a race war off of a lie that another race kidnapped your child, took your child. These people are heartless. And the one's walking around, Casey Anthony. So you see, there is not justice all the time. 12 people can set a killer free. That's why I always tell you all to pay attention to the details. Anything is possible in a court of law. One wrong turn, something done by mistake, on purpose, in a court of law, can set a killer free. Somebody forgot to tell something on a questionnaire, a jury, potential juror. They were talking, gossiping during the trial. They called somebody, told them what was going on. Mistrial. Stay woke. Some people are just empty inside. A lot of people are very empty. I got to see that with somebody, as I said recently, very empty, a very pained individual, holding on to old baggage that they have no control over, and they're still carrying it around. And I was like, you got to let it go. Nobody chooses their parents. Why are you carrying the burden around? Those people are doing whatever they're doing. If they are alive, you're sitting here making yourself sick about some people that decided not to raise you. Let it go. Just let it go. What you do is attempt to be a better person than your parents. Have a better disposition than your parents. That's how you change the world. Be a better person. But you walking around mad and hateful, popping off, combative, how are you different than the parents that didn't want you? Stay woke. You're sending out negative energy into the universe to people who are trying to be kind to you. So you're angry with two vessels that procreated and made you, yet you are angry. How are you different than them? Give it to God and let him handle it. He'll turn it over to where you won't cry and be angry and mad anymore. But you haven't turned it over. And you're still holding on. And that is what's wrong with the world. People are still holding on to baggage, garbage, such as Frank R.James. Angry, bitter about absolutely nothing. The world is messed up because we're all human. We're flawed. Somebody's going to get mad at you for some damn reason. Something you did, you said, how you look. It's just the way the world is. But you don't have the right to go take a person's life. Because you are mad at the damn world. Same thing with the child. He or she didn't ask to be here. So you don't have any right to abuse, neglect, or harm your child intentionally. Because you decide you no longer want them around. As I said, I've now had 2 dreams about Summer Wells. And the second dream was very vivid. Very vivid. Because I woke up thinking like, what the hell did I just dream? And as I said, in this second dream, Candace admits that someone had the child. And then I get wind of the social media posts. Her talking, people telling me, oh, did you know what she's been saying? So it kind of freaked me out like, wow, okay, what's really going on here? Premonition, perhaps? I don't know, maybe. That I was going to hear that she's telling people this new narrative of somebody taking her child and wanted a child. In the end, to me, it doesn't mean anything because she's a liar. So to me, it's just something new to spin, to keep you all talking and jumping from chat to chat, box to box, spreading more BS. She knows where she is. They all know where she is. They've always known where Summer Wells is. Very, very sickening. Well, Marilyn, I wouldn't call it luck, because in the end, it is just a dream. And I can't say that what is in the dream is actually what it is, because I don't know. It's just a dream. But it would be nice to know that the child is alive. But what I've always told people is that if my mind is to ponder that theory, who has her, and why wouldn't that person bring her forward? Because you have to look at Candace Bly and Donald Wells and their cohorts and the people who they fraternize with. So now ask yourself, what type of person would they have given the child to, loaned the child to, or sold the child to? Probably not a decent person. I'm going to leave you with that. If you need verification for any information pertaining to Summer Wells storyline, WJHL is the source. I've played numerous sources pertaining to the shootings in the NYC subway, and Mr. R.James has been arrested as a suspect in those said shootings. He turned himself in, and they followed in to get him and bring him in without incident. I'm sure we will eventually find out who he is, what he's about, where he comes from, friends, family, co-workers, where he's been living. But I do believe he's a drifter. I believe he's gone from place to place. I do believe he's lost his mind, but I also believe he was aware of all his faculties because he went from place to place. He ordered things with a credit card. He knew exactly what he was doing when he went in that subway. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he was wrong. And he has no more problems than the next person. He has no more complaints than the next person. But you don't have the right to snuff a person out because you don't like what's going on in the world. There are a lot of things we don't like. Paying bills, high food, high prices for cars, car insurance, rent's gone up, mortgages gone up, people needing to move, being evicted, homeless. There's 1,000 things we can be angry about, complain about, but you don't go kill people. Well, the storm's coming because I feel like my door almost got pushed in. I'm going to get off of here because I don't want the live to be cut by the storm. The storm has now touched down here in East Tennessee. So I thank you all for joining me. God bless all of you. Prayers for New York City. Prayers for Summer Wells and her brothers. Pray that the truth is revealed. Pray that we don't go into month of June and still not know where this child is. I pray that her parents will tell the truth and end this charade and these games of social media and YouTube chatting. Thank you all so much for your patronage and following the content. My community board is posted with the latest information pertaining to the subway shootings and any information pertaining to Summer Wells as well. Thank you all so very much. God bless all of you. Stay safe. The storm has landed as I'm speaking to you right now, and it doesn't sound very good outside, so I'm going to cut the live. Thank you all so very much. God bless all of you. If you want to donate to the channel, $BigAngie 129 Cash App. Have a peaceful week. God bless all of you. Happy Easter. And I will be back with more information. Thank you all so much. God bless all of you. This is Everyday Shenanigans.